Welcome to your Gemini horoscopes for the week of March 31st through April 6th. No planet in Gemini this week. And while Vespa has officially moved out of Gemini, it is still on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. So her influence is still there a little bit, can still be felt there a little bit. Focus continues to be on that really dark place, unfortunately, which is also responsible for a lot more triggers than you would normally want to deal with. And we are in a Mercury retrograde officially this week. So a full Aries Mercury retrograde, again, with no planets in Gemini, there's really nothing interacting with that Mercury retrograde, which helps to not amplify its influence over you, but there will still be an influence nonetheless. To be honest with you, we've been through the shadow period for the last week. I'm already seeing the normal phones not working, computers not working, blah, 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 right? Internet issues, the usual stuff, right? The usual suspects that come up during a Mercury retrograde. And it's a full Aries Mercury retrograde. So that is definitely a more aggressive retrograde being influenced by a fire sign. So why is this even important to you? Well, with Vespa continuing to influence things in your inner closet, bringing up insecurity triggers, these triggers, unfortunately, may become heightened. The frustration is heightened in there, or it will come from more frustrating sources, or can be maybe even a little bit more aggressive than it normally would be. Most Geminis that I know, they're pretty good, or it's fairly normal for them, I guess, however you want to put it, to just kind of sort of brush things off and, not really let it slow them down. And this week just seems to be like it's a little bit more difficult to do that because of this influence of the Mercury retrograde coming in. So there's one thing. The other thing that I really feel is something for you guys to take into consideration this week is that it's really a good time to really understand just how much time it may take you to work through some of these frustrations and these triggers. Most of the Geminis that I know, when they get frustrated with something or someone or whatever, they get their hands dirty, right? So I know Geminis that, like, when they get angry, they clean like crazy. I know one that's like he's just busy hands, whether he's fixing something or building something or putting it together or whatever. Most of the time, this is the Gemini way of avoiding the situation, of avoiding how they feel about the situation. And the downside to that is that it pops up again, and then you start the whole dang process over and over again. This is actually a really good week to not do that. Okay. To really take a look at it, to understand what about this is bothering me, and not from the other person, but like, let's say you get into an argument with your spouse and they say something that triggers you, that makes you really upset. And that's usually your go-to, I have to bury myself in a project or clean the kitchen or whatever. Instead of burying yourself in that project, understand that, take the time to, okay, go through the motions. So, yes, I'm angry at this person because they said this. How dare they say that? Okay. That's the very top layer of the dirt, right? The easy stuff that you could brush away with your hand. Now you got to get a shovel and you got to start digging, right? And when you start digging, you understand, you finally come to a conclusion where you realize that the reason why what they said specifically hurt you was because somebody used to say that to you when you were a child. And it could be even a somebody that's nowhere even near influencing you anymore. My one of my abusers when I was a child isn't even alive anymore. I mean, there's no way that he can hurt me anymore, right? But that stuff still sticks. until we dig through the muck and pick it out by the root. It's like pulling a root out of the ground. Sometimes you really have to dig. Those roots are deep. You really have to get down there and dig it out. The more you do that, the less you're triggered. And that's why it's really important, though extremely uncomfortable, to go through this process. And that's why the wheel goes, we all go through it for at least a month every single year, because it's necessary to go back to it, to keep getting, to keep yanking those roots out. Some roots are easy, you just yank them out and then throw them away. Others take time. You have to take them out piece by piece. So the more you acclimate yourself to this process, the easier it is to get through the process. And you're not just reacting, trying to cover up, trying to forget, and moving on, and constantly going through this vicious cycle, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do consider sending a tip or donation through my Coffee link in the description. Really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I'm Melissa Bruce, Heavy Metal Psychic. I will see you guys next week. And in the meantime, you guys make it a great week. Triggers are triggers, and they're annoying and nobody wants to deal with them. But if you do deal with them, you have less of them. And there's less opportunities for things to come along and slow down your roll. And you don't want to slow down your roll. You're Geminis, you go a million miles an hour. Nobody wants to be slowed down, especially when they go a million miles an hour. So you guys work through those triggers, be the boss, and have a great week. I'll see you next week.